When I was growing up and I had first discovered the band Rage Against the Machine, from that point on, my perspective on the guitar and what role it played in a band situation had completely changed. My musical approach to the guitar was definitely sculpted by guys like Vernon Reid, Head and Monkey from Korn, and other people that were using a plethora of different effects on their guitars to bring about more atmospheric or just like non-guitar sounding sounds from their guitar. But at the forefront of the group, it was always Tom. He was doing really unconventional things with the guitar, like using a literal Allen wrench to scrape the strings in order to make the main riff of the song People of the Sun. Or more notably, using the pickup selector switch on his guitar with one of the pickups turned all the way down, while also using a wah pedal and scraping his hand across the strings in order to perform the solo in the song Bulls on Parade. And so I was completely obsessed. Like, I was trying to find whatever information I could anywhere I could. The internet was still young, so if I wanted to look up any sort of information about a guitarist and what they were using as far as their rig, you had to go on forums. You had to hope that Guitar World magazine had one of their cool little animated diagrams of someone's signal chain. Or you would get your hands on one of these books that are totally inaccurate and really aren't helpful at all. But through those avenues and through watching live footage of Tom and Rage Against the Machine playing or Audio Slave, I figured out what I needed in order to try to emulate his sound. However, when it came to certain effects or certain attributes of his guitars, they weren't always necessarily the easiest things that I could get my hands on for my own benefit. So you would think that when Neural DSP drops their Archetype Tom Morello plugin that's essentially the essence of Tom Morello in one singular plugin, I would be super psyched. Right? I suppose the real question I should be asking is this plugin really sort of the one-stop shop for all things Tom Morello? And yeah, let's talk about it. Good afternoon. How's it going? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Miles. I do music stuff. And it's been a minute since I've made a video. That's my bad. I've been super busy with stuff related to work. My wife just recently got back surgery, so I've been trying to help her around the house and just make sure she doesn't have to do any real strenuous movements to take care of stuff like laundry or the kids or whatever it may be. So I've just been a little busy, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. And rest assured, at some point we'll be talking about all the work stuff that I've been dealing with recently because it's music job related and I try to talk about anything music related on this channel. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss that video when it comes out. But with all that out of the way, today's topic of discussion is going to be the company Neural DSP and their new plugin they just released that is spotlighting or is essentially an all-encompassing suite of attributes that are related to the guitarist Tom Morello of Audio Slave and Rage Against the Machine fame. For those of you that may not be aware, the company Neural DSP is known for churning out some of the best sounding, most innovative guitar-centric music software, and they've been doing that for some time now. And of all the products they have in their catalog, some of the most noteworthy products they have available are part of the Archetype series, where these plugins are built kind of centralized around an individual guitarist and the unique attributes that make that musician stand out. And as far as this series, they've covered a lot of ground already with artists like Tosin Abasi, Rabia Masad, Corey Wong, and Tim Henson from Polyphia. And for each of these plugins, when they're released, they come with a series of amplifiers that you can choose from to use and interchange speaker cabinets and microphones. But you also have the option of a bunch of different effects that come with that individual plugin. And the effects and the amps themselves are usually unique to the musician that is being profiled in this archetype form. But not only that, the plugins also come with a series of presets that are sculpted by the actual individual artists themselves, as well as other artists that contribute presets to the library that is available in the plugin. So overall, it's really cool. You get some different perspectives on how to utilize the resources that are available within the plugin, and overall, it all sounds really good. Which leads us to what is available in the Tom Morello Archetype plugin. The amplifier is his personal, what I believe is a JCM 800 Marshall, as well as a series of effects that have become closely associated with Tom Morello and his unique musical signature. So we're talking delay, we're talking about the whammy pedal, we're talking about phaser, an EQ being used as a boost, things of that nature that Tom Morello has used throughout his entire career with bands like Rage Against the Machine, Audioslave, Street Sweeper Social Club, and other projects from there. And as far as the presentation of everything that's in these plugins when they're released by Neural DSP, everything looks and sounds great. It's really good, and visually I have no notes, and sound-wise everything is always top-notch. However, going into this particular offering from Neural DSP, I was a bit weary that what they had to offer wasn't going to be something substantial enough to kind of stand on its own. And let me explain why. Two large contributing factors to Tom Morello's signature sound is the utilization of a Digitech whammy pedal, as well as a Dunlop Crybaby wah pedal. And with these two particular effects, the variation in sound that you get from them comes from the use of the treadle foot pedal that manipulates the mechanics inside the pedal and changes the actual sound that you're getting, whether in the case of the whammy it's a change in pitch, or in the case of the wah it's a change in the tone of your guitar signal. And so immediately it's realized that if you want to use these effects to the capacity that I assume most people are trying to use them in, you're going to have to go out and get yourself an expression pedal that's compatible with the plugin itself so that you can manipulate some sort of foot pedal controller to change what's going on in the plugin itself. Either that, or you use the plugin with a DAW and you have to map out all the automation you want to take place with the effect itself, which is time consuming, can be frustrating, and a lot harder than moving your foot. However, there's another option to work around this in the case of the wah pedal, because Neural DSP has included a button to automate sort of an auto wah feature with the wah pedal, so that when you're plucking the strings in your guitar, that triggers the manipulation of the wah pedal itself, which for certain effects isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if you want the sweep of the pedal itself to not just be this reactive recoil each time that you pluck the strings on your guitar, it's going to require a little bit more involvement in order to get the sound that you're looking for. And when it comes to the whammy effect, it gets a little bit more complicated because there's actually two whammy effects built into the plugin. So what we have in this case is an effect called the dive bomb, and then the other is called the wham 1. As far as the dive bomb effect is concerned, from what it sounds like it's an automated change in pitch where you pluck the string on your guitar and it goes up or down in pitch, and you can change the severity and the speed of how that change in pitch takes place by moving that treadle pedal on the screen in the plugin. This effect seems to be something that was ripped directly from the Digitech XP300 space station. Arguably one of the few useful effects on that pedal, but that's a topic for another time. However, it is worth noting that more recently Tom Morello has been using a Digitech space station in his live rig, at least for the past couple years. I remember when he had that group with Chuck D and Be Real, Prophets of Rage, seeing shots of the stage and seeing a space station in his line of pedals. The Wham 1 visually resembles more so the Digitech whammy with its red color, and as far as its functionality, it's kind of cool because you have the ability to change the pitch going up or down 1 or 2 octaves, but you have that option as far as both sides of the pedal itself, which you don't have with the Digitech whammy. So if you really wanted to, you could have it set to be 2 octaves down with the heel back, and then 2 octaves up when you have the toe down, which again, you can't do that with an original whammy pedal, so that's kind of cool. And you don't have to just set the parameters for octaves, you can set it for other semitones between those octaves that exist on the menu. You also have a blend control, so you can affect just how much of that change in pitch is being heard versus your dry signal. So again, pretty cool. However, in the case of these two effects, there's no auto feature like there is on the wah pedal. So if you want to change the position of the foot pedal on the wham, you have to do it manually by dragging your mouse up and down on the effect itself. Or if you're using it in a DAW, then you have to go in and manually automate the movement of the foot pedal itself, which again, time consuming. Or again, you go out, you get yourself an expression pedal. And so more than likely, unless you already have something that you can utilize for this purpose, you're probably going to find yourself wanting to go out and find some sort of expression pedal that's compatible with the plugin that you can utilize with your computer to manipulate this effect. And so that was really sort of the first issue I encountered with my first impression of the pedal, because if you're going and investing money into getting this thing in the first place, it kind of sucks to have to then go and get additional hardware to complement the software. And don't get the wrong idea, this isn't the first instance of this sort of thing coming up with a Neural DSP release. With the Archetype Corey Wong, that features a wah pedal as well. And I remember when that first came out, I was looking around everywhere trying to find answers as to what controller people were using as a wah pedal for this particular feature, which you would think that Neural DSP would offer some resources and clear-cut answers as to what can be used in that capacity. But we'll get there. But then I considered another aspect of this whole thing, because if you're someone who's been a fan of Tom Morello for a long time, maybe you've been following his career throughout the time that he was in Rage Against the Machine up to now, you're more than likely either my age or older. And if you play guitar, you probably have access to a wah pedal, maybe more than one wah pedal. You probably also have access to a whammy pedal of some sort, whether it be the original, a reissue, or that whammy DT. You might even have access to one of the old Digitech space stations. And if you do, let me know, because I want it. I sold mine when I was in college, and I want it back. So hit me up. But with all that said, if you fit into that category of guitarist, are you really that compelled to invest in a product that offers a digital version of the stuff that you already have, but just makes it harder to use? And obviously, this is a question that I'm asking, assuming that you're not getting this plugin with the intention of setting up some sort of live rig where you're bringing a laptop, an interface, and then some expression pedals, and that's going to be your entire setup for a show. I'm talking about the people that are buying this to have on their computer so they can jam and record with this thing at home. And to continue discussing the effects that are in this plugin, the effects that are unique to this plugin are not necessarily unique in the entire catalog of other plugins that have come before it from Neural DSP. For example, if you want a whammy effect, look no further than the Archetype Gojira. That was the first instance of a whammy effect being built into one of the Archetype plugins. If you're looking for a wah-wah pedal, look no further than the Archetype Corey Wong or the John Petrucci. They both have wah pedals built in already. And if you are working with these plugins in a DAW, rather than just as a standalone plugin in itself that you're just jamming with, you have the ability to combine attributes of the individual plugins to use in combination with each other. So you can use the amps from the John Petrucci plugin with the wah pedal from the Corey Wong, and then the whammy pedal from the Gojira. You don't necessarily need to have one singular thing for this. Another thing that I wanted to make note of as far as the effects that are in this plugin is the choice of effects that are here. If you go back and you listen to material from Tom Morello, mostly from the time that he was playing with Audioslave, there was a heavy usage of the effect of tremolo. On Like a Stone, the solo in Show Me How to Live, as well as numerous songs that were on Out of Exile. There's tremolo all over the place. And so with that said, where's the tremolo? It's not like Neural DSP doesn't know how to incorporate a tremolo effect into one of their plugins, because they did that with the Tone King Imperial MK2 plugin they released not too long ago. So I don't know, where's the tremolo? Where is it? And to Neural DSP's credit, I don't know what the future holds for this plugin. They might offer an update to it, which they've done with the Corey Wong plugin, where originally it didn't come with a chorus effect, and then later on they updated it to include what's called the 80s chorus. And I believe they offered updates for the Tosin archetype as well at some point. However, for now, we're lacking in tremolo. But what we're not lacking in, oddly enough, is stereo reverb and a dual delay, which, if you are aware of the effects that Tom Morello is known to be using in his signal chain, he's had a Boss DD3 for ages. And he runs all of his effects through the effects loop on his amp, and that's it. There's no stereo post effects or anything of that sort. And I believe that this was a choice made by Neural DSP to kind of maintain the same format of the menu as they've had it with all their other archetype releases. But if you're making an archetype release around a singular artist, shouldn't it be utilizing attributes of what that artist utilizes in their own playing? I don't know. I think I'm being nitpicky, but I just felt like I needed to make a note of that. And unsurprisingly, when Neural DSP first released this plugin, underneath all their posts on social media and on their video premiere on YouTube, there was a series of comments from people that were underwhelmed or unhappy with what they were presenting as their new product. And the immediate response from other people in the comment section of all these posts were people jumping to Neural DSP's defense and saying,
"Bro, if you don't like the plugin, just don't buy it."
And that's a fine opinion to have. However, number one, as a customer, you should be able to tell the company that you're purchasing a product from what you dislike about it and what they can do to make it better, especially considering that that's been like the norm for I don't know how long now in the supposed guitar community. Companies want to know what everyone's into so that they can cultivate products that everyone's definitely going to buy. So if you release a product that no one likes, if they don't buy it, you still lose as a company because you literally didn't make any money on that product. So you should probably take into account what your customers are saying. Even if it's just a bunch of people saying like, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't waste my money on this." At the root of that, you have to be able to say, well, why do you see it as a waste? And number two, for all the people that are coming to Neural DSP's defense, you need to understand, Neural DSP is not going to f*** you, bro. Like, I don't think a company like Neural DSP needs some sort of white knight character to jump to their defense in the comment section of one of their posts. I don't think they care about you coming to their defense that much. I think they're more interested in making money off you from their products. So if people have discontent for their product, I think their opinion's valid and it should be heard. But that's just me. But to kind of piggyback on that point, I feel like a lot of the backlash that came from the release of this particular plugin, Neural kind of set themselves up for. But here, let me explain. So if you're unfamiliar with the promotional practices of when Neural DSP gets ready to release one of their new plugins, what they do is they basically hype everyone up on social media. They'll post something to their Instagram where it's a silhouette of an amplifier head and it just says soon. So then everyone's trying to figure out what that amp head is just based on the dimensions that they can make out from the actual picture itself. And so you're getting a lot of buzz built up that way. And they follow up with that with a different picture like the next day or a couple days later. It says sooner. And this continues on for about a week. I think it's about a week long sort of promotional thing they do where the day before the release, they put up another silhouette picture that just says tomorrow. And then everyone's like, "Oh, what's going to happen? What is it?" And then on release day, they premiere an ad on their YouTube channel, and then they follow it up with taking that same ad and posting it to their Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff for everyone else that didn't see it on YouTube. And then right after they do that, a bunch of demo videos pop up from other guitar players on YouTube that have already had access to the plugin itself and are making videos either reviewing it or just like demoing all the different presets that they either made themselves or that someone else made or that are made by the artist that the archetype is based around. So it's just Buzz City with everyone in the guitar community. All of a sudden everyone's looking for their debit cards and they're thinking, Yeah, I'm okay, fine, I'm just gonna buy it. And then everyone buys it, and they have it. And then other people make review videos on the plugin. And it's like this giant feedback loop. And for a long time, this was working out really well because they were on a serious roll with their archetype releases that they had. One from Pliny, one from Nolly, Get Good, and the other one from Tosin Abasi. But then when they released the Cory Wong archetype, that really turned everyone's heads because up to this point, Neural wasn't doing anything with like crystal clear, clean guitars and compression and auto-wah, like funk-esque stuff. And so this was like a breath of fresh air for everyone that was kind of feeling inundated with all the like super distorted, djenty, prog rock stuff that they had up to this point. They wanted some diversity, and boy did they get it. And then they followed that release up with the archetype Gojira, which was like super brutal sounding when it first came out. I remember when I got it, I did the 14-day trial they offer on all their plugins, and immediately I played one chord on my Schecter that's tuned to drop B, and I was like, I'm buying it. Why haven't I bought it yet? But then they dropped a huge bomb on everyone when they released the archetype Tim Henson. It was a pseudo-clean amp with some distorted options as well, like not really geared towards like heavy distortion of any sort. So the amps sound nice and crispy. You got that like signature polyphia sound that everyone was all about at the time online. But in addition to that, you had access to the effect that's built into that plugin called the multi-voicer. Something that without that plugin, a lot of people would otherwise not have access to that sort of sound. But Neural wasn't done yet, because they then released the archetype John Petrucci, which came with 4 amps instead of the typical 3, along with a series of a bunch of effects with a wah, chorus, a whole bunch of stuff. But in addition to all the effects and all the amplifiers that are available in this plugin, you also had the introduction of the feature called the doubler. So that takes your signal and basically gives you sort of a stereo image of your guitar's signal, making it sound wider. And additionally, on top of that, they built in a metronome, and there was also a new feature called transpose. This was essentially available in the Gojira plugin through the wow pedal, which is a whammy pedal, but it was really frustrating to have to set that manually to get specific different tunings and whatnot. So this alleviates that issue by having the singular knob at the top of the menu that allows you to just move it to a different tuning. You want to play in E standard an octave below, bring it all the way down. Done. Super cool. Everyone was psyched. And you might be assuming that I'm going to say, and here we are present day, but no, because there was another archetype release. It was the archetype Rabia Masad. And this particular plugin was really cool because you had some great sounding amplifiers, some unique effects that haven't been introduced to any of the Neural plugins up to this point, like a fuzz or the icy feature on the delay that's built in. But additionally, this plugin's got a synthesizer built into it. A synthesizer that works with your guitar and that you don't need any special hookups for in order for being able to use it. So that's super cool. And so Neural would do the same promotional format every time they were getting ready to roll out a new plugin. And so everyone was getting hyped. Everyone's like,
oh man, Neural's gonna drop some crazy stuff right now. My wallet's not ready. My wallet's not ready. Oh my god.
And Neural even released some other plugins that were not centered around an individual artist, but in this case centered around amplifiers, like the Tone King Imperial MK2 or the Mesa 2C+. And even those releases came with unique attributes that you otherwise wouldn't have found in other Neural DSP plugins, like the tremolo on the Tone King, or the fact that the Mesa 2C+ is essentially, supposedly, the sound of Metallica's Master of Puppets. But yeah, here we are present day. What unique attributes did we get with the archetype Tom Morello? None. There's nothing unique here. As far as what you get with this amplifier, there's nothing that's really new. Nothing really that's like unique to it, and a lot of its attributes can be found elsewhere. But it's also worth noting that for years, Tom Morello has put such a massive emphasis on the idea that every record that he's on, the sounds that you hear are coming from his guitar, not from some digital instruments, not from some post-production stuff. He's lying, but for the most part, the sounds that you're hearing on the record from the guitar are being played by him on the guitar, and a handful of effects in front of his amp, plugged into his guitar, and then from there it's just a matter of how creative he can be with the resources that he has in front of him. Nothing too crazy going on beyond that. But if you're not like a Tom Morello fanboy, you're going to be on the outside looking in at this plugin, and in comparison to the other stuff that Neural DSP has released, you're going to look at this and say, that's it? You may even wish that Neural DSP had simply just released a plugin that was based around a Marshall JCM 800 with some effects attached to it and maybe some different cabs or like a modded version of it as well. Which I have a suspicion that doing this was Neural DSP's way of releasing a Marshall plugin, but that's a suspicion for another time. My conclusion is that for the caliber of previous releases from Neural DSP, this most recent one feels mid. And arguably it's not, because if you're looking at it at face value in terms of what you're getting with this plugin, everything in it works great. It works great. It sounds great. If you're trying to get that sort of Tom Morello sound, you'll get it from this, but it's also worth remembering that Tom Morello sound isn't that hard to get.
Hi everyone, so this is Editor Miles here. I figured just to kind of follow that up and further back my point, I should try to play some Tom Morello-esque sounding stuff using the pedals and rig that I have set up over here. So, got my pedal board over here, hopefully you can see that. And over that way I got some amplifiers, and yeah, so let's check it out real quick.
I should also note that I'm running my amp that's over there, that Ibanez that's way off in the distance. That's being run through this device, well, devices from the company Two Notes. The Torpedo Captor, so that's the load box for the amp itself, and then the Torpedo Cab M Plus, which, another thing to be noted is that if you were to get your hands on a Torpedo Captor X, same thing, looks like this model Captor, but instead it's got this built into it, so then you only need one device rather than using two in conjunction with each other. But yeah, so I'm using that so that my amp believes that it's currently plugged into a Mesa oversized cab. So yeah, there you go.
So yeah, here's a janky video explaining further into how to achieve Tom Morello's sound in a real life capacity. Alright, so just to make things clear, I'm using an Ibanez Tone Blaster as my amp, solid state. I could have used the Pro Reverb, but the solid state is just there, it's quicker. And I have my Telecaster, using the neck pickup, obviously, and I'm in drop D. But I'm also using a Boss Blues driver as overdrive, and let's see, how does it sound? So we got that going on. But what about lead stuff? How about the Whammy DT? Seems to work. And I'm using a guitar that has a kill switch on it, but all you need is a guitar that's got two pickups and two volume controls for those pickups. So you would just turn one down to 0, and the combination of those two things or maybe you're more of an Audioslave fan. No problem. So we got the Whammy DT, Blues driver still on, and the linear power booster from Electro Harmonics, and the digital delay DD8 from Boss.
And it honestly feels like another example of Tom Morello finding like the most basic product to slap his name on and claim to the public that it's the only way to get his exact sound. This is the way to do it. He's got his signature guitar with Fender now. He's got 2 pedals through Dunlop or MXR, I forget, but it's an overdrive and a wah pedal. And now we're here with this plugin. And I don't know if it's just me. I imagine it's not just me. I imagine there's a bunch of other people that feel the same way as far as following a guy's music career where he's put so much emphasis on making sure that he stuck gaffer's tape over the Marshall logo of his amp so that no one claims that he's being endorsed by Marshall and wasn't trying to get endorsements from any companies, to now suddenly wanting to get endorsements from everyone. Like, look, I get it. Get that bag. But like, I don't know. It just seems insincere, you know? Kind of like leads everything else to be up for question as far as your ideals. But we're not getting into that today. So with all that being said, I feel like what this plugin has to offer is not something that I need. And so I personally won't be investing in it. But if you want to have access to a whammy pedal and a Marshall amp, and you don't want to invest in the Gojira plugin or something like that, this would be a good fit for you. It's straightforward enough that it's accessible to anyone as far as actual usage of it. Like, there's no weird menus you got to figure out in order to be able to actually use the plugin. So that's cool. But, yeah, it's not for me. And with all that said, everybody, that's all I got for you for today. I just wanted to make this video because I've been pondering this topic for the past couple days since they released the plugin, and I've had mixed feelings about it, and I know I'm not the only one who does. So hopefully you found this critique to be useful. I'd rather have someone make a video offering honest criticism of a product rather than trying to present it as being the most amazing thing ever and not giving you any of the finer details about the sort of shortcomings associated with that product. So again, I hope you found this to be helpful. If you found this video to be informative and interesting, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you didn't hit that already, like I told you before. And if you like what I'm doing on this channel and you'd like to support further than just liking and subscribing, I'll leave a link down below in the description to my Patreon page where you can check out what perks are attached to your contribution over there. But with all that said, guys, that's all I got for you for today. I will be back with a video very soon, and I hope to see you when that video comes out. You guys are wonderful. Stay safe. Keep playing. Peace.